I just went into the podcast thing, right? I just dropped right into the voice.
Stop doing that.
I got to stop doing that. But we're here today to talk about origin stories, and we're here today to talk a little bit about the MacAdmins Foundation. And my name is Tom Bridge. I'm the founding co-chair of the MacAdmins Foundation. I'm joined by my fellow co-chair.
Hi, I'm Dr. Emily Kausalik. Is this not on again?
It is, but it doesn't project very well.
It doesn't project.
No, it's just not on.
It's just not on. All right, we're going to have to figure this out today.
I'm really loud, but that doesn't help the. Oh, here we go. It's back.
There we
It's
go.
back.
Now we
It's
got
back.
it. We're back again. All right.
I'm Dr. K. I'm also one of the founding members and co-chair of the MacAdmins Foundation. And are we just like popcorning?
Yeah,
Am I
popcorn
popcorning?
it.
I'm Chris Dawe. I'm the board secretary, and I'll be back in a minute.
Yeah.
I've got a microphone. I'm Rich Trouton. I am the treasurer of the MacAdmins Foundation.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Unger, and I am one of the not founding board members. One of the newly, I don't even know what the word is.
Without
believe
portfolio.
Inaugurated sounds about the right way to do it. But yes, there are 9 members of the MacAdmins Foundation board. You're standing with 5 of them today. Sadly, we had some that couldn't make it this week. That was Gerard Massey and Aaron Merchant, Sabrina Coy, and Diego Iaconelli, who is overseas. He is over in the UK. And so we're really thrilled to be here today to kind of give you the lay of the land, help you understand, like the last time this conference met, none of this had even been thought of yet. And so it is a product of the last 2 years. It is definitely a product of the pandemic in a lot of ways. And it's about the future of the community that we are all part of. So, I think it's really important for us to understand, what's the role of the foundation? And what is the foundation here to do? So who here is a member of the MacAdmins Slack? That's a lot of hands. So it's really important to understand that when we started the MacAdmins Slack, or when Bree started the MacAdmins Slack in 2015, it was just a free instance, right? You go to slack.com, you sign up for a thing, you invite some friends, and well, magic happens. We grew and grew and grew and grew and grew for quite some time. And the MacAdmins Slack got really big. There are more than 57,000 members in the channel as it stands in the announcements channel. Emily's going to give us the live count, as a matter of fact.
We're doing a live check right now. It's not working.
You can't set it back on the thing. I think that kind of resets it.
Resets it.
So yeah, maybe just hold it, or we'll set it down.
Announcements is our default.
Yes.
Has 59,330.
So 59,330 accounts exist today on the MacAdmin Slack. And we got together, we started to worry, right? I mean, Slack changed hands and went public. It went private again when Salesforce bought Slack. That was a scary moment for us because we kind of existed in an old program that was meant for employees at Slack to sponsor their friends to use Slack at their business. And those were accounts that were meant for maybe 50 people.
Yeah.
And maybe not 59,330 of your best friends. And we had access to the full product at Slack. In fact, there are so many things that this community has done in that Slack and built, and we think about the Appleseed private program. We think about all of the different conferences that are out there. All of the different groups that have participated in our Slack instance have really benefited this whole community. And we started to do the math, and we started to think, well, would it be so bad if we had to pay for Slack? Well, friends, I can tell you it was in fact so bad if we had to start paying for Slack. I think for a while we used the unit of Ferrari as as how many Ferraris would it take to sponsor Slack for the MacAdmins community? And the answer is 2 Ferrari Romas. That's the grand total of $440,000 of Slack licensing per year for the community. And so we started to, I will admit no small amount of panic after I did that math the first time. But we started to ask the question, what would it take for us to get Slack cheap or free? And the answer was, have a 501c3 nonprofit. And so we started to think about that. What would that mean? What would be the charitable mission of an organization to serve the Slack instance? Because that's where we started, let's be honest. But we knew that couldn't be the only goal of the MacAdmins Foundation. And so we started to think about it. We were thinking about it in terms of what are the other things that our community needs badly in terms of professional development? How do we how do we get new voices into our community? How do we bring up a new generation of Mac admins to do what we've done? Who here remembers managing Mac OS 9? That's probably about 20% of the room. Who here got started after Mac OS 10.4 and later? 10.10 and later? And I was going to say, there are varying skill levels that have come into our community over time, and we kind of have to do all of this knowledge sharing. Wouldn't it be great if there was a great community behind that knowledge sharing? And that's where we started to think about, that's the reason to have a Mac Admins Foundation. So, you know, when we think about the kind of things that we've done in our first year, we're here today at the Mac Admins Conference at Penn State University. I believe this is the 14th Mac Admins Conference at Penn State, the 14th that's been open to the public, because their first year was private. This year, there are 5 people who were registered for this conference and attending this conference who didn't have to pay a dime to be here because of the Mac Admins Foundation. We brought people from Australia, Kenya, and the United States to come to their very first conference at the Penn State conference here, because we know how important this community is. In addition to paying for the Slack, which we all love and understand, we also sent 2 people to the Macaduck conference in the UK this year. We covered their ticket cost. They were on their own for recognizance for travel. We hope to make that a better experience in the future. In addition, we're really excited, and we'd like you to come to our panel this afternoon in the next session. That is, if you don't want to hear me blather on about software update. Nobody wants to hear that. But you want to hear us come talk about the Mac Admins open source project. Who here uses open source software in your Mac installation? Again, so many hands just went up. I love seeing that. There are so many great projects these days that are open source, that are developed by community members like you. And when we come down to it, a lot of that needs a signing certificate now. If you want to build a binary to run on macOS, you need that to be a signed binary. If you need to build an installer, and you probably need to build an installer, or at least a disk image, both of those need to be signed and notarized now. And now we have a great way to do that for community-based projects out of the Mac Admins open source project, which we helped them to organize. We'll be hearing more about that partnership a little bit later today. Next up is Apple's Certified IT Professional exams. So for those who are not familiar, it-training.apple.com has a bunch of online material where you can learn how to manage iOS and macOS and tvOS devices in your organization. Whether or not you have them in hand yet, whether or not you have them to play with, you can actually go and do the work necessary to understand the technologies that have been brought to bear. And so now Apple has a brand new Certified IT Professional exam, and this past winter we provided more than 400 codes for those exams out to members of the community who thought that that would be too much money to pay for an exam. And so being able to train the next generation of Mac admins to allow them to build their own tools and to give knowledge access through conferences like this is a big part of the Mac Admins Foundation mission. And of course, there's always the community, and that is largely represented by the Mac Admins Slack. So Rich, I'm going to turn it over to you, and we can talk a little bit about the money part, because there's a money part.
Yes. This is the part that's going to be both very interesting and very boring. So let's talk about money. So in 2022, we set ourselves what we consider to be a crazy fundraising goal of $250,000. We achieved that goal.
Thank you to our incredible sponsors that we worked with that I know we're going to talk about.
We're going to talk about them.
We're going to talk about them. So what all went into that pot? Well, we had an outpouring of generosity from both individual and corporate donors alike. So as of today, in fact, we are proud to announce that Adigy and MacPaw are joining our major sponsors at the foundation.
And I know we have some sponsors here in the room, so if you want to stand up, we'd be happy to give you guys a round of applause.
Yes.
So I see Arena back there, so I want to say thank you. Thank you. big part of the reason that we can do what we do is because of the generosity of these organizations.
Yes.
And the trust they put into the community.
Without that support, frankly, we're a bunch of people standing around talking about how we'd like to change things. So, for the numbers, folks, here is how it breaks down. We got our corporate level donors, the business donors, the not-for-profit donors. We had some generous donations come in from there. Individual donors, that's you folks. Employer matching donors, for you folks that had employers that would match your donations. We took in money from that. It was great. We had some grants from businesses for our for the IT certification program. We got a grant from Apple for that, which was very generous. For those folks who are walking around with the the macOS shirts, the hats, the lovely merch, you guys helped as well. Also, even though it didn't pay a whole lot, we got a little bit of interest from what we put into the bank. So thank you so much to everyone who has donated and who also worked with your companies on our behalf to provide us with this funding. So what did we spend it on? So here's the breakdown for financial year 2022. So Slack renewal was by far our most expensive thing.
That was our initial license as well.
Yes. This has also been our cheapest for Slack, as I will be covering in a bit.
It's a little bit like the Homer Simpson slide where it's like, this is the most money I've ever spent on Slack. This is the most money I've ever spent on Slack so far.
So the Apple certification scholarships, Apple gave us money for this. It went right back out to pay, we didn't take a dime out of this. It went right back out to pay for the certification exam vouchers. Also, there are a number of just general admin expenses that come along with running a nonprofit organization. For example, accountants. I'm currently talking to 2 sets of accountants about financial year 2022's taxes. Lawyers, because lawyers help keep us out of trouble when we have great ideas like, let's run a ticket giveaway overseas. Also, just various general professional help from folks who have run nonprofit organizations before and are able to help us with steering clear of the rocks and shoals. We also spent money on the Mac and Men's open source project, and as you can see, that all came out to a nice chunk of change. So Slack was by far our most expensive item, but in general, there's just a lot of money that goes out in running an organization like this, and we got this nice pie chart for those who love pie charts instead of raw numbers. So we had more income than outgo. So, so what did we have at the end of the year? This much. We had $182,266.97. We're rich. We're never gonna need.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. You're rich.
Oh, that's right. I'm rich.
Yeah, you're rich. No, it was
Yes. But we'll never need to ask anybody for anything ever again, right? No, we really still need that generous support. Here's what we're paying for this year so far. We've got the conference and community grant program. We are continuing to provide financial support for the Mac and Men's open source project. Of course, we've got that Slack renewal coming up, and those pesky administrative costs do not go away. So, Tom, do you want to talk about what this?
I would love Jennifer to talk a little bit about the community and conference program, as she spent a lot of her effort and time since joining the board on the community and conference program.
Okay, thank you. It really helps to be prepared for these things. But anyway, so yeah, as Tom gave a great intro to what we were doing, we were able to bring 5 individuals here this year through this program. We partnered with the conference in order to get tickets, and then we provided funds so that they could cover travel, lodging, whatever expenses they had. Leaving work for a week can be hard for a lot of people. You might need childcare, people have to eat, whatever you needed, right? So we had over 100 applicants from all over the world. That was an interesting process. None of us had done anything like that before. I've never had people, apply to me. I mean, job interviews maybe, but this was more, I don't know, applying to college or something. I felt like, because we were basically reading some essay responses, right? So we did a blind grading. scoring of the responses that folks gave us. Most of the board was able to take some time and go in, read those responses, and really make sure that we were supporting the people that we wanted to, because I know that sounds weird, but our goal was to get people who wouldn't otherwise have an opportunity to come to a conference like this, who were early in their career and could really benefit from that. So if I had submitted my application and I said, hi, I'm Jennifer, and I've been at every Penn State conference since 2014, I'm a speaker, and so they gave me a free ticket, that would have been really stupid, and I would not have been selected. But we had some really great responses from people, and they talked about their career goals and some of their reasons for getting into IT, and some of them were really inspiring. And we were very excited to be able to pick these 5 people to come and join us, and I really hope that we'll be able to continue this in years to come, and do it for more people and for more conferences, and just, you know, help the community as much as we possibly can. Do you want me to keep going?
I think that was, yep, Emily?
I can cover it.
Chris can cover this a bit too. But so right after the session at 3:30, and I don't know where because I don't know what is happening this week at all. It's downstairs. It's downstairs. Check shed or whatever to see where it's happening. We have a panel coming together to talk about the Mac Admin's open source project. So in a nutshell, and I'm going to pass it to Chris to talk a little anecdotally about it in a second here. After the announcement of the foundation happened, thanks to Apple's press release on the Apple IT certification exams that kind of ripped the Band-Aid off, so to speak, after all the hard work we did, which thank you to Apple for doing that for us, because we're us. We were approached by folks who are heavily invested in developing and maintaining open source tools used heavily in the community to figure out if the Mac Admins Foundation might be the right vehicle to provide a developer account for providing a signing identity for notarization and the stuff that Tom mentioned earlier. We said no, we don't want the liability. However, one of the things we want this nonprofit to be is a place where community projects can come if they need funding to get things off the ground. And at that point, I will give it to Chris to talk a little bit more about who we worked with and why.
Yeah, so what we were, one of the, and this really speaks to the foundation itself, one of the things that we've started to realize as a group, and part of the group that you're looking at up here is kind of the result of a lightning and bottle encounter at Mac IT in 2014, where I met Tom in person for the first time, where we ran into Rich, and where we met Jenna for the first time. And one of the things that we sort of came to the realization of around a lot of these discussions is that a lot of us have been in Mac IT, Mac admins for quite a while, and you get older, you start to move into new jobs and new aspects of your career. And we looked at a lot of the tools that were being used in the community, and there's a long history, particularly at Penn State Mac admins, of proprietary software versus open source software. Let's fight this out and see who's better and see who has kind of the high ground this year. And one of the things that we realized is that no matter what tooling people are using, almost everyone's gluing their systems together, at least in part, with some of these community developed open source tools. And we were finding that some of the developers of those open source tools had started to move on from explicit Mac admin roles, started to move on into department management, project management, product managers, et cetera, et cetera. And we started to say to ourselves, well, what does it look like to take some of these things that are being maintained by individuals and start to kind of move to not exactly institutionalize it a little bit, but formalize it a little bit so that there's a way to pass the torch as somebody moves into new roles, so that you don't just take some of these crucial projects and leave them hanging. And I've been acquainted with Nate Walk for a long, long time, longer I think than even most of this crew. We met at MacTech LA in something like 2009 or something like that, 2010, and he had moved into a role of trying to essentially corral a lot of the open source developers in the Mac admins community and start moving their projects maintained under, say, individual personal GitHub accounts into a Mac admins account that is sort of focused on the community. And we reached out to Nate and said, hey, Nate, would you like to talk? And he came back immediately and said, yes, please. And that's how that got started.
So if you'd like to hear more about the journey of getting that set up, who we worked with, the time it took, and some feedback from other people involved in the Mac Admins open source group on GitHub and some of those tools, and I'll throw out a few: Nudge, Monkey, Outset,
Auto package.
Auto Package. I mean, these are things we're getting lots of nods, right? It was really important to make sure that there was a structure, an organization, a foundation behind it, capital F or lowercase f, however you want to think about it, right? To support these things that are so critical for supporting you all in your roles at your organizations, right? At the end of the day, we're investing in the community and what the community needs. And we're going to talk a lot more about that at 3:30. So if you'd like to hear more about it and some of the tools involved and the folks involved, please join us there.
Room 107.
107?
Yes, 107.
107. Come down to 107. You can follow me there because I'll be there too.
We can set it down, I guess, for the moment.
Yeah.
Rich, I think this is your
Yeah.
fun moment.
Because we're back to money.
Yes.
So our Slack renewal costs are only going to increase as our Slack community grows. This is not a bad thing. Our community is growing, our family is growing. To help hold down costs, we have negotiated and signed a 2-year agreement with Slack this year to make sure that next year's increase is under $8,000 over this year. So Slack renewal for 2022, we got a heck of a deal. Because this year, it is going to be this. And next year, it's going to be this. So when I talk about how we need your continuing support, this is a big chunk of it. So I think the good news is that this year, paid. Next year, we are going to be paying next year. But at least we know what that number is going to be. It's not going to be something that we'll have to negotiate.
Especially with software licensing costs changing all the time. We're all in
Yes.
IT. We know that every time you go back to your vendor, it's a different amount of money. It's a different per unit cost, and sometimes it's a different unit calculation.
Yes.
We want to make sure that we have a predictable path to revenue neutral operations here as quickly as we possibly can. And the best way for us to do that is through that 2-year agreement with Slack. That is as long an agreement as they would let us sign this time. We hope to make more and different friends at Slack over the next 2 years so that when we renegotiate this again in the summer of 2025, that we have a lot more options available to us.
Now, we know some people, and on the board, we have other board members not here who also know some people. However, if you know Salesforce and Slack people who want to help build a great relationship with our board and our community for this ongoing
Expense.
endeavor of ours to support where the community is currently hubbed itself on Slack, come talk to us.
Come say hi.
We'd love to have a conversation.
So we have done very well with your help. Thank you. We are going to continue to need that generous support as we work to help you individually and the community as a whole.
I think I'm trying to remember where do we want to start with the future.
So much. I do want to call out one thing that was mentioned a little bit in the slides. There's a secret path to tricking your employer to also donate to us, and I mean that in a very loving way. My employer day over day is Jamf. Some of you may have heard of us. We use a platform called Benevity for corporate giving. Jamfs can go into Benevity, they can make a donation to a nonprofit, and then every year Jamf provides a matching dollar amount to any of the nonprofit organizations listed in the platform that a Jamf donates to. So I'll give you myself as an example. Every month I donate $10 to the Mac Admins Foundation through Benevity. Jamf matches 100%, so that's another $10. So that's $20 a month that goes to the Mac Admins Foundation. Over the course of the year, There's math involved. I'm a musician at heart. I don't really do math, but it's more money than if I was just donating myself. A lot of organizations will also do matching if you file a donation with them through whatever corporate giving group or outreach group that your organization has. So I want to call that out as another avenue. If your organization is able to operate, in particular due to your implementation or your group's implementation of open source tools built and maintained by the Mac Admins open source group in our community, I would encourage you to consider finding ways to lovingly trick your employer to give us money to show support for that effort, because open source is free, but it is not free, and we all know that, right? And that's why it's so important for us to find those opportunities to support the community projects and initiatives and planning and collaboration that happen in the spaces that we're in, and Slack, on GitHub, and on these other avenues. So in terms of what does the future hold, did we have people with strong feelings about what we're talking about on this one? So we, for some of you that have come by the table downstairs, right by registration, we've talked a little bit about how we've tried to already grow our programs in year one. The hyper focus to start was that Slack bill, right? Because there's so much shared history and knowledge and camaraderie and friendship and projects and initiatives and ideas and Appleseed channels and whatever you get value out of, right? It's all happening there right now for our community. But we also know that there are a lot of people that do what we do or are adjacent to what we do that aren't familiar with the Mac Admin Slack. They're not familiar with the resources. And what's so important about finding ways to support our community where it's at is that the stronger we make our community and the more support we build for the community through these tools that we use, the more resources we have for people coming in professionally, right? So we would love to continue expanding how we invest both time and monetarily into our community. And what we're looking for from that is for the community to see those projects that need to happen and to come to us, right? We are here to support the community. We are not here to determine what the community needs or does, right? So that does come from finding ways for feedback to come to the board to figure out where we can invest time and energy to better support the community and the things that the community needs. And I think a big one, and this is our first in-person conference, we think a big part of that is going to be more involved in conferences as they go into next year, and the potential for meetup groups and new conferences that may come as these in-person events start happening again.
Absolutely. And this is another great place for us to talk about here, because community doesn't end at Slack. Community ends in your community. Who here has been to a regional meetup of Mac admins in their part of the world in the last 5 years? That's a lot of hands. There are a lot of really, really great meetup groups here. I see some folks from the Philly meetup group. I was gonna say, you're wearing the shirt. That's amazing. I was gonna say he's got the it's a Liberty Bell with like the bite taken out of it, which I love. And I see Serge back out there. Oh, and I was gonna say we have stickers from the DC group there, and I see Serge, one of the organizers from the Philly group, is in the back. So if you've ever wanted to be in a meetup group for Mac admins in your neighborhood and you don't know how to do it, come see us at the foundation. We can help. Come see our organizers from other cities. I know Chris has been part of the Cascadia meetup out in Seattle. Well, I was gonna say, you're running the show. I apologize. He is the meetup. And you know, Jennifer and I and Rich and I both work on the organizing committee for Mac DMV in the DC area, and Emily in the in Austin. So I was gonna say, we want to build those tools for you in other places, and we want to give you more ability to do those kind of things and the financial support necessary where possible to help you do those kind of things and bring more people out. Because we all do better when there's more of us. Who here has heard the phrase, many hands make light work? And yeah, I was going to say, that is, it is so wild to me.
Rising tides lift
all boats. Right? That's right. I think in a lot of ways, the community is what it is because we all put into it what we did, what wasn't available to us when we got here. And that's the kind of action that we want to start to work within our people to do, to share knowledge and share abilities.
Yeah, if you see up on some of our bullet points here of what we're trying to do, there are two that I want to point out, which is expanding our working committees to non-board member volunteers and developing the volunteer core. So as Tom said, right, there's a lot of great meetups and a lot of things that you could do locally and in person, but they don't exist everywhere. And I think this is a great opportunity to do some virtual support of the community. There has been a lot of work done to try and get a mentoring program off the ground. There are several channels in Slack of people doing organizing and recruiting around that. A mentoring program is an incredible idea. It really speaks to some of the core things that we want to do about passing our institutional knowledge on to people who are new to the community, who are new to this work. But it is also a lot of work. It takes a lot of coordination and a lot of just logistical stuff. And so if I will pass it on to them, I think they want to add some more information about that, but we would love to have some volunteers come and help do that, because as much as we love doing things for the community, we want to get you guys involved, and sometimes we have to go to our day jobs too. So please, if you are interested, and I would just add one other comment that I think it's a great way to get involved in the community if you don't like standing up in front of people. You get to do it a little bit more behind a computer screen. So, you go.
I'll go back to the corporate giving thing because I'm apparently stuck on that topic today. If you're at an organization that has corporate giving, check if they have opportunities to file volunteer hours. Another program that I know a lot of organizations will say you can say did 4 hours of volunteer work for the Mac Adams Foundation, and then some organizations will then pay that back to you in dollars in a platform to donate to the organization or donate to another organization. So if you are at a group that if you're at a company or institution that does volunteer hours or a concept of doing volunteer work as part of your employment package, you can investigate that as an option too. And I don't think there are any other jams in the room. We have that too. When I do board work, because the board are volunteers as well. All the work we do is volunteer work for the Mac Adams Foundation. We are not paid for any of this. And we don't want to be, right? We see this as a service to you all. That's why we do this work. I file all my VTO hours with JAMF, and then I take all the VTO money, volunteer time off money, and I donate it back into the Mac Adams Foundation. I try to funnel as much JAMF money into it as possible. And I know that there are other platforms out there that will do comparable things like PayPal giving and I'm happy to talk about some of that with anyone that has questions about those kind of programs.
If your employer doesn't have those kind of programs and you want to learn how to talk to your employer about adding them, I know that that's been one of the things that's near and dear to my heart. I've been talking to a lot of people at JumpCloud about Benevity. And to make that a possibility to expand the mission of the organization to do good out in the world. Chris?
I just wanted to return to some of the comments that Jennifer was making about kind of creating committees and starting to work on organizational maturity. One of the things that we found as a group during the process of standing up the Apple Certification Scholarship Program was that we had founded the organization with a board member of 5 people. And I don't know if you're familiar with the phrase, it goes something like, do you want to be in charge? Be the one who shows up. Well, the first 5 of us were the ones who showed up, but we very rapidly discovered that 5 was not enough. And we very rapidly discovered that the amount of work that needs to be done for something like this can be just an overwhelming amount of work. And so we brought on, I think towards the end of last year, towards the end of 2022, an additional 4 board members, of whom Jennifer is one. The others are not here: Aaron Merchant, Gerard Massey,
and Diego.
How do you say Diego's last name?
Iaconelli.
Who are not able to be with us, but we really just did discover that we are the type of people who try to take on all the work, and we are the type of people who were trying to slide in a half-hour to 45-minute board stand-up once a week during the working day. And we just got to this point where we're like, we need more people, we need more hands, we need more help. And thus was born the idea of kind of expanding the size of the board. And I have to say, I'm not sure that we would have gotten through the community grant program without the addition of the new board members.
Agreed.
I feel like the new board members were instrumental in actually executing that work and making it happen. But as we move on, we continue to have these conversations about, well, how are we going to do X, Y, and Z in the next thing? And we're coming to this realization that it can't all just be board members. We've really got to bring folks in the community in. And kind of returning to that, you know, a group of us here essentially met at 2014 in Mac IT. We want more groups of people like that in the community. We want there to be groups of people who met and hit it off at Penn State 2023, JNUC 2023, Mac DevOps Vancouver, and so on. And so come to us with your ideas. We want your help.
Yeah. And with that, I think that we can go on to the next slide, which is really just a QR code. And that QR code is just a lovely link to the MacAdmin's merch shop. But we want to take this opportunity to open the floor to all of us so that you can ask us questions and ask us what we're up to or how we think about things or what you want us to do next.
I want to give a little bonus history talk too before we go into Q&A. So Tom mentioned that when the Slack team first started, it was Bree, Coy, and Kitsy, who you may recall as a member of the community, and they created the MacAdmin Slack team as it currently stands, as a way to be like, we'll try it out, and also it'd be nice to just talk shop with people somewhere online. You know, we're not always together. It's the online hallway track is kind of what we refer to it as, right? You get to hop in there. Yeah, people were starting to transition away to IRC. People have differing opinions on that. I guess I'm a little younger blood on that. Slack was really the first, besides the old Jamf Nation forums, the MacAdmin Slack was really the first place that I felt there was a community I was going in and just commiserating and chatting with people and sharing ideas with. But the Slack team cost was provided by that Slack employee perk. And at the end of the day, how it was really described as like, this was for you to have a Slack team for your family. Essentially, you just have like a chat program for like your family, and it was really not meant for a ton of people. The first time that Slack employee left Slack and we had to figure out what to do was actually the first time we talked about building a nonprofit, and I believe that was something in the 2017 timeframe. And that initial conversation was myself. I believe Rich was initially looped in on that as well.
Yep.
Kitsy, Bree, Dana. Maybe a few other folks who were kind of in that original admin group when the group founded, but quickly realized it was a ton of work, and another Slack employee stepped up and took on the burden of maintaining the community on our behalf, and we were like, oh, thank goodness we don't have to worry about doing all of this work. But something about changes organizationally over the last few years, and especially how critical the Slack team came, in my opinion at least, during shelter-in-place pandemic, however you want to refer to it, right? How crucial that hub became for so many people and so many organizations. We had to take control. We needed to know that it was secure. We needed to know it wasn't going to go anywhere, right?
I was going to say, you know, in that same time, anyone who was a parent of small children during that phase knew that you needed a little bit of escapism in your life because there was no escaping anyone else at that point.
It was the MacAdmin Slack and Animal Crossing. New Horizons
correct.
were the escape.
Yes. And well, I mean, it was a great way to stay in touch at that point
yeah.
and to maintain your sanity in those moments.
And during that period of time, I have to say in certain private rooms on the Slack, there was a fair amount of conversation that went, wow, we're really glad we don't have to pay for this. Ha, ha, ha.
Yeah.
It becomes a lot less funny after a point.
That was actually one of the goals that when we started talking about this was that we wanted to make sure that access to Slack stayed free, that anyone who wanted to could sign up, join, didn't have to pay a dime, could just join, start talking, and no obligation, no string. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the big reasons why we started this effort, was to keep it that way.
Yeah.
You don't really even have to be a Mac admin.
No.
A couple people have come up to the table and asked me how they joined the foundation. And I was like, well, we're just open to everybody. We're open to the public. So, you know, you might have a coworker, friend, family who is, I don't know, just wants to talk to IT nerds, or maybe they do audiovisual stuff, not necessarily Mac. They're all welcome too. Like, we're open to everybody.
Yeah, one thing we've definitely seen over the past few years has been more folks coming in saying, I'm a Windows admin, I just got handed all these Macs, I don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So,
With that, Q&A?
yeah, questions?
So
Can I throw?
Oh, yeah, please, throw.
Oh, sorry, that was bad.
It worked. I got it. Okay, so you talked briefly about working with organizations that are on the local ground. So I helped plan the Toronto meetup, and if anyone here is a local to Toronto, in the Toronto channel on Slack, good place to join to know about what's going on. But what type of support are you looking to do and all that fun stuff?
So the vision would be, I'm the founder and main organizer of the Austin Apple Admins Group out of Austin, Texas, and we typically have 3 buckets of challenges for every meetup, and other meetup organizers will probably agree. One is where.
Mm-hmm.
Where is it going to be? And not all organizations are eager to bring in a bunch of outsiders, external prospects, whatever kind of, whatever you want to call them, right? Guests. Plus security concerns if it's a shared building, et cetera, down the line. Sometimes it's hard to find a venue. So the where. The who. Are you going to get presenters? Are there going to be sponsors that talk? Who is going to be there? And what's the infrastructure behind the who? Do you use Eventbrite? Do you use Meetup? Do you use the Jamf Nation site? Do you use whatever? Forum? Do you just organize it on Slack? Do you use Twitter? Do you use a Google form? Who's coming, right? And then what's the carrot to get them out? And it's usually food and beverage. And that's not free. Where do we get money for food and beverage? How do we make sure that if we're having a meetup in the evening that people can still have dinner, right? They're taking time out of their evening with their family, whatever. Do we make sure that they have what they need when they're there to be a part of the community? So I think those are the 3. And I think right now we typically associate cost with food, but if you need to rent a venue, or if you want to put yourself in a position where you're able to thank your presenter somehow.
yes.
What I would love to see, and I need help from people who actually know how to put these kind of things together, is can we build out some kind of infrastructure through the Mac Admins Foundation to help provide funding for those things, those 3 things that meetup groups, I would say, at the essence of them, require. It's one of the projected volunteer group or working groups that we think will probably come to light as we kind of better organize. Now that we're out in the public, we're talking to people, we kind of have things under our belt, we have a sense. We also have a wonderful consultant, Andy Fife, who works with us, who's a colleague of Chris's, who helps us. He helps other nonprofits as well figure out, like, how do you do this stuff? Just please tell us. So we're at Mac Admins, like, we got the computer bit, but how do you, like, figure out a form to intake, and what about the PII, and what do we do? What kind of consent do we need on forms? Like, we need people to help. So anyone that's interested in building some kind of virtual, like, region agnostic
Platform?
Yeah, or process, workflow, working group, whatever, to try to figure out how to facilitate the requests from groups and that kind of thing around those 3 to help support, because maybe there's a region that wants a meetup group, but they just have no venues. They would need to pay to rent a space, right? Or they wouldn't have a way to feed anyone, and they're worried that no one will come. Or Meetup is the thing to use, but to really leverage the Meetup platform, there's a fee involved, right? How can we help with that?
How can we knock down those barriers?
Yes.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Because if we think about all of the great things that our community has done, if we think about the software products that we've built, well, if we think about Software Update, for example, and Nudge and Superman and those other free tools, those are knocking down the barriers to adoption of new versions of the operating system. If we think about tools like Monkey, it's knocking down the barriers to software installation and putting the user back in control of what's on their device. Those are the best kind of tools in terms of we are knocking down barriers for people that would otherwise be obstructed. We're here to facilitate. We're here to provide good advice. We're here to provide tools. And a lot of those things sometimes cost money.
I just had another idea too, which is, I'll add this and then we'll popcorn it, or we'll throw it really hard and see what happens across the room. We'll talk tech for a little bit. Our website is through Squarespace. Building out Squarespace does have member models, meaning logins, right? So if there are people in the community who are experienced Squarespace administrators, maybe on the side, maybe they help their organization manage their own website or something like that, that would be able to help build out kind of the infrastructure of what it would be to take requests and fulfill them through a site like Squarespace, that's another fantastic volunteer opportunity for someone who may have that expertise and want to lend it to. And that goes to our sponsors too, who maybe want to get more involved directly with stuff that we have going on with the nonprofit. And I'm actually just going to walk it because I feel really bad. I don't want to like knock somebody out. We have got one back here, and then we'll come back up here for you.
To return to the money stuff for a minute, one of the reasons why we are still asking for help, even though we do have a considerable bank account, is we are trying to think long term. We are trying to think generationally, where we have this amount of money, and hopefully we're continuing to grow it and have it, go out into the community, and we can always make sure that when that need exists, we can help.
That's right.
So I have two questions that you don't need to go into deep answers on. They're just
Sure.
kind of general questions. But thinking about like the group that's here, you know what I mean? And I'm from K-12, so I work in an independent school in New Jersey. We have our student ed tech leaders. These are our young admins, that are helping us in this process. Is there any age limit to which the foundation can work with?
Yes. So there are some, we maintain liability insurance. That was a fun conversation with the liability. You would do what? Anyhow, but yes, I don't think that we can do youth programming at our current insurance regime.
Okay.
And so that is one of the challenges. We are 18 plus right now.
Okay.
If we find some good options though, I'm happy to talk about it, and we can go back to our insurers and have that conversation.
I'd be happy to have that conversation.
Yeah, because there is additional youth liability insurance that you have to carry for working with youth for understandable reasons.
Secondly,
But can I just throw one thing out there? Is that just because the kids, I have riches.
Yep.
I got it. We're good. I say just because the kids can't get directly involved, though, doesn't mean that you can't spearhead other
Exactly.
people at other schools,
Completely.
share techniques for the students and stuff, right? And then go do it with your own students.
No,
Correct.
That's
So,
perfect. Yep.
yeah, for sure.
Second
Just want to
question.
make sure she's okay. So the second part to that is, does the organization want to partner at any point with other similar nonprofits? I mentioned that. So I'm a member of, again, an independent school, tech directors. There's a group that supports independent school tech directors.
Sure.
We have conferences. We do a lot of work there. Is there any look or desire to cross over to try to build up from within, or is the bandwidth, I mean, I heard what you were saying about the number of people, is the bandwidth just not there yet for those types of cross-pollination?
So I think I would answer this question shortly, and then probably pop it over to Tom for more detail. We're the type of people who are interested in talking to just about anyone if it seems like an interesting idea. So I think that there's definitely an appeal to that in a very broad theoretical sense that said, what would we even be doing? Sure, let's have a conversation. But in terms of committing,
Yep. Well, my very first tech job was working for a company called Randstad. Who here has heard of Randstad? They're a temp agency in a lot of cases. I was a temp IT worker. And they have a concept that I love and have kept with me always, which is the simultaneous promotion of all interests. And so as the foundation, we will be there to partner with other organizations where it makes sense if we can promote all of our interests together. And so if it's in the interest of the community and we can make the argument that what we're doing is going to support the Mac admins community, bringing more people into the Mac admins community, bringing new voices into the Mac community, and bringing more tools into the space, we're absolutely going to do that. So if you are working with another organization that wants to talk about these kind of things, always happy to have those conversations. Please reach out. We do have an email address that reaches all of us. It is board@macadmins.org. And so that's BOARD@macadmins.org. It's not BORED. We are never bored, but we are always happy to hear from folks, especially if you've got a partnership idea in mind. Cool. Other questions? We got one in the middle.
Yeah. Can you guys give an update on the mentorship program that was kind of discussed around October-ish? It kind of came back up in November and December-ish timeframe, but it's been kind of quiet since, and so just something to get involved in there. And
Yep, and I was going to say, there's unfortunately been a reason that we've been quiet, and that's capacity. I was going to say we had the end of year fundraising to do, as well as the early parts of the audit that were done in the early part of this year, and this program as well for new conference scholars. We are hoping to get that back up and off the ground as we go into the late summer. We will have a lot more to say about the mentorship program as we go into the fall, because that's where the focus is going next, because that is really important to all of us. We also recognize it takes a huge amount of work. And so we are looking for folks who want to volunteer and help us lead those committees. So if you have got some extra effort that you can bring to bear, we would love to talk with you.
I would also say arguably that the conference scholarship program that we're building out now is an extension of that.
Mm-hmm.
Getting people here, getting them around others, having those conversations is a big part of it. In terms of the structure behind a mentorship program, yeah, we got derailed by one going, we can't do this, we need more help, and then all the time it took to get the help, and then the help building out this, right? It's 8,000% a bandwidth thing at this point. Correct. Honestly. We had some people who came in to take in the reins, and one of them became a board member and then got heavily invested in doing a lot of this other programming stuff for us. So if there's someone that has experience doing mentorship programs for other organizations or employers that wants to come in and take some reign kind of situation, we would love to chat about that too.
Yeah, one thing that thank you. One thing that we recognized was that there are so many good ideas and only so many hours in the day. So, and we really do need, especially with the mentorship program, where it's not a tech thing, it's really a people thing. And it's a people thing that takes a lot of time and a lot of energy to do right. And we want to do it right.
Mm-hmm.
And the bandwidth needs to increase to make it happen.
Correct. Now, I was going to say, this is where I get to put on my product manager hat for a second, because everything is about backlog at this point. And there's a great graphic going around the internet, and it's the gravity well associated with the sun, the gravity well associated with the black hole, and then the time dilation effect of a product manager's backlog. And that's very much where we stand right now. We are working to change our priorities. We are shifting back away slightly from the scholarship program now that we have scholars here and some in the room. And we are working hard on shifting our focus at this point towards that mentorship model. And look to hear from us a lot in the next quarter about that. Let's see, where's the catch box? Oh, right there.
You all were talking about the budget and how so much of the money came from corporate donations
Yes.
and sponsorship. Can you speak towards the future of that? And
Sure.
maybe without naming names so that no one is excluded.
We continue to have great conversations with organizations. We are thrilled that Adigy and MacPaw, I was going to say we had the press release today from Adigy. We'll have a press release from MacPaw next week. But we are really, really excited to have new sponsors on board. We are going to be having ongoing conversations with our existing supporting and major sponsors over the next year. It is natural that the economic conditions are always going to affect these things. We may be losing some of those sponsors, unfortunately. But we are going to have the open conversations. Nobody is leaving because they are mad at us, I don't think. And sometimes economics work out that way. Are we going to continue to pursue those sponsors? Absolutely, we are. And I was going to say, if you're an organization that is interested in sponsoring the Mac and Men's Foundation, we are happy to talk to you. Please come talk to me. We are happy to have great conversations. We are happy to tell you what we're working on. We're happy to steer an arrangement and have those conversations. So we do have some really unique sponsors. I think that our partnership with Meta from the first year was super unique, because the IT department at Meta came to us and they were like, we have benefited so much from the Apple community. We want to give back. And I would like to give a special thanks to Nick McSpadden, who I don't think is here this week, and say, Nick, I love you and thank you.
And just in terms of that conversation, one of the processes that we go through as we start to look at organizational maturity is getting past that initial round of excitement around, hey, it's a new thing. Here are a lot of sponsors who are interested in bringing us money, and now it's something you have to come back and ask for.
Yep.
Now it's something you have to continue and you have to make it work. The metaphor of a marathon, not a sprint, as we look to sort of mature our organization, maturing that process is going to be a big part of it.
If I think about it, it's not a marathon, it's a relay. because there are all of these organizations that are out there that benefit from the Mac admins community who participate as they are able to. And so they take the baton and they run for a while. And so I am incredibly grateful to all 15 sponsorship organizations, not to mention every individual donor for the Mac Admins Foundation. You have all made an incredible difference in the lives of our community and its ongoing functionality and the generationality of being a Mac admin. For as long as there are Apple products, there will be ways to manage them. And for as long as there are Apple products, they will be in our businesses. We need ways to do that. We need people and all of the community to do that together.
First, thank you for bringing up the mentorship, by the way.
Really appreciate that.
I was
Thank you.
about to ask that. Second, is there any, just for just baseline comparisons, are there any types of foundations in here in IT besides obviously Mac admins? Are there other comparable foundations that are they out there and are you?
Who
have you
used to
been in
run the
touch?
conference in Seattle?
I think that was part of Lisa.
Tossing.
I could have.
Well, we used to have a conference in Seattle that was mostly oriented towards Unix and Linux that I think it was run by the Lisa organization, which I think has had some kind of institutional upheaval and may not be running events anymore. I'm not entirely clear because we attended that, I think, in Seattle a couple of times and then it kind of drifted off. I'm not familiar with a ton because so much of what goes on in IT is frankly kind of at the behest of the vendors who are so instrumental to the IT market. So the Microsoft world, many of the conferences and events are put on and sponsored directly by Microsoft. In the networking world, Cisco and Aruba have big events. Many of your vendors have big conferences and events that are specific to them. And one of the things that was important to us about founding this organization was not so much that we wanted to keep companies away, but that we wanted the community to be central to the organization as opposed to having one or a collection of specific vendors be central to the organization. We really wanted this to remain community-centric and centered on the people who come to these conferences.
And I think also, I mean, I don't know the answer to your question if there are other groups, but in my experience, this is a very unique community that doesn't exist really anywhere else in other industries or even other platforms in the IT industry as well. And I actually I wasn't in a session earlier, but somebody was passing around a photo of a slide that mentioned that, kind of talking about really just how awesome the community is. And I think that's just part of what makes it special and what, has made the foundation a reality, is because we are a little bit different. Though I think it would be awesome if other communities wanted to become more like us.
I would think that. That would be fantastic.
I would be honored if what we're doing here is a blueprint for other
Yes.
communities who want to do similar efforts to support their community. The closest thing I can think of it potentially, and I'm putting a bit of asterisk on it, and let me explain context before you're like, that's not right, is MacBrained.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we're switching. Although Andrew Sego founded MacBrained as a 501c6, not a C3, because C3 is a lot, as you've heard, and will continue to hear from us. C6 gave them a little more flexibility about content and what they did, and it was mainly a vehicle to organize meetups and events and hackathons and things that go on in the community. That's probably the closest thing, but it's been dormant for a while now.
It has been dormant for a while. I did talk to Andrew a little while ago. He is a new dad again, so that is a big part of his life. I think the other thing that is different about the foundation as opposed to MacBrain is the definition of what a 501c6 is. It's a professional organization. Unfortunately, the program that Slack uses to sell their software to nonprofits does not allow them to sell to 501c6 organizations that way. They
Yeah.
have to sell to 501c3 organizations, and that's what put us in the barrel.
That was something that we were
yes.
like, is it worth doing a C6
Or a C8.
or a C8 or
Yeah.
some of the other ones? And you can go to like the IRS website and other things, and you can find out the differences between those things. But to qualify not only for Slack, which was kind of our hyper focus,
was a
as
big
you
one.
all are probably getting the sense of, right, from this conversation, but also being a full not-for-profit organization also enabled us to do things like get a no-cost Google Workspace
Correct.
for all of our email and organizing and stuff like that. We qualified for discounts through 1Password, through other like organizational things that like you as an IT professional understand you need to run an organization. It enabled a lot of those other things at low or no cost as well, so that we could actually maintain our organization in those other areas that you may not think about, right?
I believe that also fed into our sales tax exemption. I think it also fed into our sales tax exemption we were able to get from the District of Columbia, where we were headquartered, which, among other things, probably saved us $7,000 on our Slack renewal this year.
And if all of these weird letters and numbers and things sound strange to you like they do to me, that would be why Rich had a line item that said lawyers.
And accountants. Don't forget the accountants. They're very important.
Yeah, one of the things I don't think we realized is how much infrastructure stuff goes into just standing up something like this.
Yes.
So I'm curious, do you have sponsorship packages? Or how, if
We do.
you do, okay.
Yes,
So
we
if
do.
someone were interested in sponsoring their specific,
Come talk to us.
Let's talk.
We're
Yes.
downstairs, right by the stairs.
Yep.
well, the t-shirts are.
Where the t-shirts
Where
are.
the t-shirts are,
And
yeah.
there's a lovely QR code where you can get your own t-shirt and hat and barbecue
Sweatshirts.
apron and
Mugs.
sorry, I don't mean to flog it too badly. No, we cannot. So we do not have the ones downstairs are for show. Our lovely, wonderful people at Bonfire who make our merch, print on demand as well as warehouse for us. And that means they don't have to be warehoused in my basement, which I'm really excited by.
And we don't have to take your credit cards and figure out your sales tax and what state you're
Correct.
from and carry all those shirts here. We put a lot of stuff in Emily's suitcase, and I just don't think that a size for everyone would have fit in there.
Yes.
Yeah, I did you have another question or?
No, that was it. I mean,
Okay.
I didn't know if it was like, give what you can, and
We
put
Let's
the logo
talk.
on the
too.
website.
We'll
or if there's-
talk. We'll
right,
throw
we'll
this
talk.
out there on macadmins.org. There is a donate page with donor box. You can set up recurring subscriptions for yourself, or donations. I'm sorry, that was the wrong word. I want to talk merch just for a second. All right, I became the merch person. Any of the merch you see is largely me. Figuring out all the no, please. We specifically chose Bonfire because they, up until this point at least, have specialized in providing fundraising opportunities through merchandise sales for organizations. And what they do is, if you're a verified nonprofit with 501c3 status with the IRS in the United States, they give you a discount on the processing for the orders that are placed. So we gave you numbers. I'm going to give you some numbers too. If you go to Bonfire, you set up an account, you do a fundraiser. Usually, what you get after the sale has the cost of the item taken out, production costs taken out, and then 8% for all the handling, the shipping, the logistics, all the stuff that they do. Right? If you're a verified nonprofit you can verify that with Bonfire, it drops to 3.5%. So we're getting a few extra dollars per shirt. Now the voiceover shirt that we had a big run of last year, just to give you a sense, like we got extra thousands of dollars from those sales out of that difference between 8% and 3.5%, right? The other thing that Bonfire provides is if we did the direct selling ourselves, the tax implications per state for a nonprofit are logistically just not possible.
We would need to register
For
in
us.
every state in the District of Columbia as a foreign organization with tax exempt status. The number of organizations of states that allow you to do that online is about 2/3. So
Yeah.
that would mean a very long and unpleasant road trip for me to go fill out all the forms. So we are very thrilled to have a great partner who handles this for us.
Yeah.
Centrally arranges all of our reporting, and that has been a huge help to us.
Yeah, and then
Sorry, I was just going to say, I mean, they're just talking about in the U.S., but we
Yes.
definitely have supporters that are not in the U.S., and I have literally no idea what would be involved in that. But Bonfire's taking care of all of that, right? So our friends in Australia, in Europe, literally, I think anywhere, but I would have to check. But
Japan.
I think anywhere can just still all go to the same site. And, you know, it all comes to us for that same process, and we don't have to figure out international shipping and customs and all of that stuff.
Our
So it's
Down
really-
Under friends will remind us when they watch this recording that at first Bonfire did not ship to Australia, and they went through great lengths to find ways to get Mac Admins Foundation merch down there, and we thank them for that.
Indeed.
For now. So I get questions a lot about why don't you have zip hoodies? Why can't I buy stickers online? And it's like Tom made the joke about his basement. It would be my house.
Yes.
And I've got a 4-year-old, and we remodeled our house to give her the master suite so that she had room for all of her stuff. We just can't, we're not in a position where we're not NPR, we can't warehouse stuff, you know. That's why a platform like Bonfire is so important for us, right? Not only is it a way for you to support our organization and for us to get your support, but then when you wear that voiceover shirt out and someone says, that's hilarious, where do I get one? Then there's word of mouth, you know, and we're kind of spreading the message in more ways than one about what we do professionally and our community.
Which
So-
reminds me, at
Yes.
4:45 today,
Yes.
if you brought a Mac Admin shirt to wear or any of the gear, come to the staircase at the bottom of the staircase next to our booth. We're going to get a picture of everybody.
Yes.
And or if you're just here and you want to show that you're supporting the foundation, we would love to see that. This community is so big and so big together. It is something that we have a lot of power as a group, and I love that.
And I will throw this out there too. I want to talk about the sticker thing because
Oh, I was just going to make a lame joke.
oh, make your lame joke, and then I will talk, and then I will talk more seriously and passionately about
If you want to take a
merchandise.
sticker and put it on your shirt, you will absolutely be
works
allowed
too.
in the photo.
You're allowed in the photo anyway. You came to
Yeah.
our session. But I had to like ride it too far. That's what you do with those. So we got a lot of questions about the holographic stickers. Those were a run from last year. I have found out that Rich had more.
I've
So-
got some too.
Because you're here, you can come grab one at the end of the session. We do have some of the holographic 2-inch stickers available. If those all get taken, we do have some standard stickers downstairs. They're obviously at no cost. We want to just see our logo splattered everywhere, so everyone asks you what's the deal with the Mac Admins Foundation, and you can talk about it with people, and we can just. You may be out somewhere and someone sees it and they go, yeah, I work in IT and my org is thinking about Macs and what the hell, and you can say, hey, go to macadmins.org, right?
That's
It's
right.
all a part of our mission, right? To just get the word out there and to support the community.
Cool.
Do you have something, Chris?
I was just going to say we're down to 8 minutes, so we're kind of running out of time. Are there more questions? I want to turn it back to you all if there are. More questions, more questions. Otherwise, we're just going to continue with the lame jokes until the
Do we have a con?
Oh no, we gotta.
We're all clearly quite capable of just talking, so if you want to
Oh,
stop us.
absolutely.
Dennis has one. Nice.
Nice
That
job.
was excellent.
I was impressed.
Ah.
So I noticed for those of us with white beards who have been with Apple logos since they used to have colors, we remember that there was a thing called a Mac user group, and they would often meet in person. And what I'm hearing is that there's a distinct crossover between kind of the dwindling of the Apple user group as an option and kind of the growth of the Mac admin group as an operation. And I wonder if there are skills or people who have worked in that area who could contribute back to the group. And I think that's something that, you know, it doesn't match up, but it kind of rhymes
Sure.
when you think about it.
I think, you know, earlier in my career, I used to be involved in some user group things, and I think that some of it is just, it's
then we
just
got
the
a question
changing in
on-
technology. For instance, I know when I first started, a lot of it was done in emails. And email's fast, but it's also slow,
back, last
right?
row,
Because
fast.
you're not getting that instant feedback and stuff. And as people have gotten to Slack, you type a message, and sometimes before you've even fixed your spelling mistake, right? Like, people are answering you, which is incredible, and we love it. But I do definitely think that, I mean, I'm guilty of it. Like, I stopped using some other resources because of that. But I agree with you. I think that's something we probably don't want to lose, and I would definitely encourage folks to come in, right? Like Mac user, you don't like I said before, you don't have to be a Mac admin, right? You could just be passionate about Macs and want to join, participate in the community. I think we have a lot of people who are not technically Mac admins anymore, who are, in these rooms, on these boards. So it's not a requirement, and I just think as long as anyone wants to be involved in the community, they're going to be welcome.
I think I would add to that having spent a lot of time running the Seattle meetup community, one of the things that we really struggled with in that meetup was audience, in the sense that I was part of a meetup group of Apple Consultants Network members for a while, and then I drifted into running a meetup group that turned into mostly education and enterprise folks, and there was just an issue, and we were never able to resolve it. I'd still be interested in resolving the different audiences and managing the different audiences and maintaining different audiences under the auspices of a single organization is really a challenge, and I don't yet have an answer to it. And I think there was one question way back there. Oh, this is going to be so awful.
You got it to the right row. I'm really proud.
I hit the right county.
There you go.
I'm involved with a user group in North Carolina, and I've bounced into, as I travel around the country, I've bounced into them as I found them. To be blunt, Mac user groups have turned into funeral societies. And I'm one of the youngest people. Look at my hair, look at my face. I'm one of the youngest people left in the one we have. The young folks, my kids are in their 30s. They have absolutely no interest in going to a user group meeting. They'll get on Facebook or Slack or whatever and ask questions, but they just don't want to go. And I've seen this. I've been in Dallas and a few other big cities, and their user group. When I went to one in Dallas about 10 years ago, and again, there were 50, 60 people there, and I was the youngest person in the room. So I don't know how to merge user groups into this, but you just have to realize there's a mindset of the under 40s that they're just worthless. Now, it may not be true, but it's a mindset.
That mindset is certainly something that we can work to collaborate, to like drift away from and fix that problem with time. And I was going to say, do you, we could toss that back towards the front. Does anybody else have questions, concerns, comments?
3 minutes.
Oh, Scott?
I guess want to say thank you. I don't really have a question, but I know I speak for a lot of you guys when I say thank you for the time and effort you guys put into it.
Thank you.
I know a lot of us know there's a ton of it. So I'm definitely one of those that will step up, and where I can help, I will do so.
Thank you.
I live in an area where there are no meetups, there are no people. So the online communities and things like that, having Slack in there, I was the 4th Slack person. I was in there the night that it was started. So I'm all for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate that very much.
And that's probably a good place to stop.
I think that's probably a great place to leave it for today. I want to say thank you to everybody who joined us today. Please come see us at the booth. We're going to be there today, tomorrow, Friday. Come see us in person. Email us at board@macadmins.org. We have the Macadmins Foundation channel on the Macadmins Slack. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your conference.
And just as an FYI, Tom is speaking in the